Alright. Star Wars final act. It was at least a wee bit more interesting. A lot of it was just common undead that you deal with that give you the wow factor. I mean, we had a room filled with an iron golem that we just let an elephant fight and fight, and eventually defeat because, who doesn't get the excitement of it? Finding out we ran into the final boss like 3 rooms into the building, so that was fun. Turns out the second floor had literally him sitting there. Not that it mattered, because as long as the anchors didn't break, you can't exactly banish him from the area. But heading our way back into the loveliness of it, we had our way into the chapel. It actually enters through the second floor, in which the entranceway is very obviously guarded by a mummy. Well, a mummy lord, dressed in probably the finest wares his church provided for him. Yeah, I don't remember much about him. I just know we beat him down, and that was about all I can remember. I knew there was something. There was something guarding it. A mummy, apparently. But mummy don't got nothing on us. Entering the bulk of the church, the barbarian leading the task as usual, we step in and notice the shiny altar with lots of bones on it. Obviously, some form of retribution. The head priest, I guess, or whoever was in front of this problem solver, was left sitting in his chair after a ritualistic, I believe sacrifice is probably the best term to go with. Which, promptly, we notice a skull with lots of gems on it. Not so excitingly, Barbarian rushes forward, his obvious need for treasure there, touching the skull, and then, poof, he actually fundamentally ended up soul trapping himself, ironically, as out rises the Grand Demi-Lich. And that man, well, ironically, wasn't very tough, actually. He was so pathetically boring that I wandered off of my. The Greedus wandered on his own, just looking for treasure, as it slowly got whittled away into its own death. Thankfully enough, that's the least of our troubles to deal with. Now, thoroughly wondering about, we head to the top floor, seeking to see if we can find the last couple ones, seeing as we've already taken care of 2 of them. We head to the top floor, on which we are greeted by many a gargoyles. And leading said gargoyles, which was an honest, interesting thing to see, was this lovely ash devil. Now she has her own backstory, seeing as how she got tricked into staying into this place, not knowing full well that her master was the one that betrayed her. Now bound to the place as an anchor herself. Swiftly getting her choices to go, she doesn't exactly want to talk, which we could free her. Agridas was powerful enough to free people from this if need be. But no one ever agreed to talk. Wandering around, we find a haunted spirit. At this point we find him, he's just barely a shade of himself. But as we've already entered the cavern and solved the problems everywhere else, and retrieved his remains before him, we solved a lot of our problems, excitingly punishing out. Now, as the Ash Devil was the third spirit, we seeked around, and that's when it finally gives a wee bit of interesting guidance. Find out that there is a well. The well itself leads to its own problems in of itself. Did I not bother to do that correct? Well, that doesn't really mean much. Because in the lovely, I believe it's that spot. Yes. In this lovely tower point, there happened to be a nightshade. Now, we don't really see a lot of him. He is quite a nuisance because it is a night walker or nightshade, offering, tempting, and utterly failing because we have no interest of staying long term in this kind of place, at least not the way he wants it to. A temptation to become one of the anchors, offered eternal life, albeit as long as you're not slain in combat, which, isn't the best kind of deal. There's apparently a variety of characters who would take up this deal. I have no idea why, but once you take up the deal, he would whisk you off to the Shadow Plains to basically indoctrinate you into serving Zonkuthan. Well, needless to say, we have no interest in that offer. And as with many things, he grows impatient and decides that he wants to deal with us the fun way, bringing out his swinging violence goat and being swiftly beaten down. And then the final anchor falls, for which we head back to the lovely room we've seen. The first time we entered in, we ran into this lovely chain devil, or chain spirit. A spirit of the physical manifestation of the winning person who sieged. That lasted all of nothing. For the sacrifice of the Demi-Lich, everything in here died, becoming bound spirits of some kind. Needless to say, the first time was an unexpected counter, striking blindly and dragging the war priest into combat. Slaying him, we realized that regardless of whether we can put him down or not, we had to remove some source of strife. So, we bring out our blades, draw them forth, and struck him down the final time. Not quite as illustrious as the fact that we've already run into him once and whipped him to no shape. Thus, the castle walls shimmer, shine, and the curse is broken, and the wails and screams of spirits flying out of the building for freedom now exist. Needless to say, it doesn't go well. Just the sheer fact that the barbarian had fought the Lich and lost in the funniest manner. Fastest soul trap you'll ever see exist. Now, with heavy hearts, we head back to town. The new blade drawn to go for, and a message received as if they knew we found something of help. The next part being the assault and down of the Queen. Now, they all, if you go by the base logic of the book, Scarwall is a very, very tedious place. There's a lot of it is just simply wandering the place and finding all the empty rooms. Probably the most obnoxious part. And then, of course, the next part starts with another annoyance to that problem, so gotta love castles. But there are some level of interesting creatures that exist in here. Needless to say, a lot of our solutions became an anti-magic solution, because while in there, it does serve to free most spirits and other anchored creatures. There's many creatures we fought that didn't show a whole lot of interest, and a lot of things that were just kind of there. Like the second floor had plenty of haunts that just move you from room to room if we didn't already clear out most of the rooms that kept dragging you to. There was fancy zombies, there's all kinds of specters, if you like haunts and everything. Like one of the rooms had a backyard riding a taxidermy wyvern. Whereas most of them didn't last long enough for it to really be exciting to really care about. But, the major bosses were interesting. Most of them fought challengingly enough. Some creatures were other creatures, other than not. We've run into all kinds of things just wandering. But if you want to knock the heads in of skeletons and other specters, you get plenty of your undead feed. As it goes, next time will be the final startup part of Book 6, where we finally solve this lovely queen's problem of living here. And the Greedus' step into his own throne. Of course, Scarwall itself is a nice minor memory that goes poof. Otherwise, I will see you next time. Bye bye!